All right, guys, welcome. We are going to go over the lead generation model today. So the first model that we usually go through is the economic model, where you're breaking down how many appointments you need to set, right, to be able to hit your financial goal of what you want to net before taxes. So the lead generation piece is kind of the next piece, because now we know how many appointments we need to set, and how do we go about lead generating? What is it that we're going to do? So let's walk through, and again, you guys have a packet in front of you to kind of follow along with, but let's talk a little bit about prospecting versus marketing. Because a lot of times people confuse those two things, and they are different. When we think about marketing, guys, that is something where we are sending out a message to the masses. And it's something that we're hopeful that they then contact us back, right? So we're marketing to a whole bunch of masses, and we're waiting for them to reach back out to us, right? To come contact us. And it is something that often is money intensive. Yes, we have options to do social media that would be free, right, to do. And yet a lot of times if you're marketing, let's think about marketing billboards and mailing out, flyers to a lot of addresses in a neighborhood. Be very money intensive. Reporting a commercial, right? Like that's all money intensive with your marketing stuff. It's also passive, and by passive I mean it's you hoping that they reach back out to you, that the message you got out in your marketing was compelling enough that they reach back out and said, yes, I want to work with you. Can you come talk to me about buying a home or selling our home? And a lot of times with marketing, guys, it is a long-term game. Like it's a long-term game, right? Yes, there'll be some quick wins sometimes where you're sending something out and you're able to have success right off the bat with that marketing. But typically, we encourage you, if you're going to have an article in your church bulletin or in your neighborhood, news, and you're gonna say, okay, I'll sponsor, and I'm gonna do marketing, so I'm gonna sponsor a ad or an article in the neighborhood newsletter, right? That's something that's gonna take a while for you maybe, and you need to be consistent over time doing that. Typically with your marketing, whenever you make a decision to do something that's marketing based, you want to commit to that for 6 months. Because it takes a while to get traction, to get that recognition, right? Where someone, good morning, where someone may very well say, okay, I saw it 1 month, but it wasn't until they saw it the 3rd month in a row. They say, oh, he's really very knowledgeable on my area, and I should reach out to him. Like I keep seeing his face, he keeps showing up, he's consistent. So many people will say, I'm gonna run an ad in my church bulletin, or I'm gonna run an ad in my kid's school, newsletter. And they put one out and they go, I got nothing from it. It was a waste of money. But it's the fact that it's that repetition. And that's why a lot of times it's a long-term play with your marketing. Does that make sense? So some examples too of that marketing is your advertising. So and this is again where it's a money intensive. When you look at marketing, you've got the bottom of your handout, we've listed out a number of those lead generation activities. So with marketing, it's a lot of times you think of advertising, whether that be pay per click. So you're doing some marketing where you're putting out a Facebook ad and you're hoping that you're trying to get someone to click on it, and you're paying per click for that, right? Or you're doing SEO work, so you're trying to get your name to show up first in a search when someone goes and looks. Radio, believe it or not, there's radio, people do radio and they still do it today, or podcasts might be another way to look at that. I did radio for a while, and it was something that more, like, did I count on people tuning into 710 radio? And did I get anyone stranger off of 710 radio to call me? No. But I did have people in my network that were like, Jesus, I was able to share those, those radio shows, right? And it was somewhat of a, like, if she's on the radio, she must know what she's doing, right? So my network was able to listen to the radio shows, or just the prestige of being on the radio, right? But TV is another piece. Austin Home Team right now is working with a local station to do some marketing there. I worked with the local station to put some marketing out there. Again, very money intensive, very passive, that you're waiting for someone to contact you because you aren't directly one-on-one contacting anyone. Newspapers, having a sign on the side of your vehicle, guys, having a magnet that you buy to put on the side of your vehicle, which sometimes people will kind of giggle at the thought of that, right? Of like, okay, yeah, I'm not gonna be that person that pulls up, you know, in the school pickup line and has my name and phone number and photo on the side and KW, you know, real estate on the side of my car. And yet that's a form of advertising, right? That's where everybody in the line knows, oh, Max's mom sells real estate. Like maybe I should, you know, she always seems really friendly and such, maybe I should give her a call. Other things would be magazines, whether that be Mission Hills magazine or something of that sort. That's an advertising opportunity. Grocery carts, I know that again sounds really interesting and silly, and yet people fight over those newsstands that are on as you come into the grocery store, because it's like a small billboard. And how many times do people in the area go to a grocery store and they're seeing that face over and over again? For name recognition, face recognition takes place over time. So a lot of that stuff is where it's a long-term result, right? So long-term, people are going to the grocery store and seeing that face over and over again. And then they see that face and that name on a sign in a yard for a house for sale. And it kind of starts to play into where you get some traction with it. Again, we've got blogs and TV shows as far as broadcast content creation. Another marketing which we often think about is setting up postcard campaigns, special events, and just sold or just listings. So in a neighborhood, to send out a just sold postcard to everybody in the block as a way to market to that area to see if you couldn't pick up another buyer. Also quarterly market updates or monthly market updates. There's times where if you are marketing to a certain segment or a certain area, you may very well send out either an email or a postal of, hey, these are the homes that have sold in the Newmark Elementary Middle School, you know, area, or Fairway Manor neighborhood. These are the updates on what's come on the market, what's gone under contract, and what's sold. And then there's promotional items and swag. It's another bit of marketing, guys, which again, people sometimes will say, oh, it's kind of silly to have my name and logo on a pen or a koozie or, you know, a coffee mug, and yet it's a way to promote yourself and stay top of mind and be marketing to people. And then sponsorship. And again, you can think about, like when we think about sponsorship, we think, oh, okay, great, I'm gonna put my name on the back of the jersey of all the kids in the soccer, you know, in the soccer team this year. And again, that is a passive way of marketing, right? Because yet it's going on the back of every kid, and you know the parent of every kid that it's going on the back of, but you are a little bit, you know, wanting to get your brand recognition out there, and then hopefully over time, or that they are aware that you are in the business and then reach out to you. Does that make sense? When we're doing more marketing things, it's where you're putting something out there and you're hoping it drives someone to come take that action and reach out to you. Okay, so then when we switch over to the prospecting side of things, guys, prospecting is something that you often is very time intense. Prospecting is also usually a one-on-one conversation with somebody, a one-on-one, you know, touch with somebody, versus marketing where it's one-to-many. It is also being very proactive, right? You're taking control of, I'm not waiting for Elizabeth to reach out to me about selling her house. I'm proactively reaching out to Elizabeth about selling her house. And that does that make sense how it is a little bit different? And when we talk about, have you been lead generating? Have you been prospecting? You can't say, oh yes, I did 3 social media posts this week. That's marketing, right? Versus prospecting, where you're doing a one-to-one, where it might be, I reached out to 3 friends of mine that I know had life-changing events and had a conversation about how, you know, how their family's doing, what's going on in their life and stuff. That's prospecting. Are you interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate? And the reason too, so you're being very proactive, but it's also something that you get immediate results. If I were to call today and say, hey, I was just calling to check in. I saw that you guys, your family grew a little, and congratulations on the new little one. Just calling to see how things are going. I get an immediate, okay, great. Are you guys, I know you guys were thinking before about maybe getting a bigger house and such. I did wanted to see if I could be of service, if you guys were considering a move. you're either gonna tell me yes, no, or maybe. And upon that activity that I'm doing, that lead generation activity, I know immediately whether or not you're considering, you're wanting to talk about moving versus me marketing to you and hoping that you reach out to me. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay, great. It's early. It's 9 a.m. You guys are doing great. You guys are doing great. Excellent, excellent. Okay, so with prospecting, to go through kind of here again, the bottom of your handout, we have a list of some of those ideas. Because in a minute, guys, we're going to talk about you coming up with thinking about what is it that you want to do for your lead generation activities and what it is that you want to do for your prospecting, what you want to do for your marketing. So prospecting, listing without agencies, so calling for sale by owners or expireds or knocking on their door, walking through an open house that they're holding. That is a lead generation activity, a prospecting activity. You're being very proactive. Circle prospecting, guys. This is where you are going to identify a neighborhood. Maybe it's that either you sold a house in that neighborhood or in that development, or someone else sold one. But then you're going to go and circle prospect around that, either mail something to all of the houses around that with information about that sale, trying to get them, again, that would be more marketing because we're going to put it, we're going to send it out and hope they respond to us. But it's a form of circle prospecting. Another form of circle prospecting that would be a little bit more proactive is if you're going to knock on the door with that information and say, hey, I didn't know if you noticed or not, but over on Adams Drive, a house came on the market, 4 bedrooms, 3.5 bath, 2-car garage. It was listed at $425, very similar floor plan to yours. And it's sold in 24 hours with 3 offers. Great house. And I just wanted to share that information with you. I don't know, were you guys by chance would you consider a sale, or do you know of any neighbors that might be considering selling? We've got 2 other buyers that would have loved to have that home and may very well consider one like yours. That's circle prospecting. You're literally knocking on the doors of all those. Or again, marketing can be, we're mailing it through the mail with a stamp on it, or we're going and taping it to the door of every single house. What I encourage you on either types of that circle prospecting is you're taking the time to make sure you're putting value in what it is you're presenting to them and you're leaving with them. Oftentimes, and many of you that live in residential homes, you get those just sold or just listed postcards. And when it's a picture of the front of the house and it says just sold, and on the back is a picture of the realtor, I'm like, good for you. It does nothing for me, right? And I probably pay more attention to it because I'm in the business than the other 200 of my neighbors that they mailed it out to. Like, that is not moving to me, right? Like, that doesn't do anything to get me to say like, oh, well, that's nice that, Wendy, good for Wendy. She got it sold. I buy it every day, sold sign, like, woo, right? But so make sure that you're either sharing more photos about the incident or telling a little bit of a story about that to engage them, to encourage them. A lot of times people are intimidated about doing some of that circle prospecting where you're knocking on the doors of neighbors. I encourage you to get that self-limiting belief out of your head. And oftentimes the more value you have in your hands of what you can give them, it not only gives you the confidence to go knock on that door, because you've got something that they're going to want to see, right? But it also is something that when you hand it to them, it's of value. And they're going, oh, this was actually very helpful. Like, thank you, Lisa. Like that. Oh, I had no idea that there was 2 other houses for sale that also went under contract in less than 3 days, and then ended up selling over asking price. Like, that's really helpful. They can't get that info anymore on Zillow. And I will tell you that we've had people in this office that were like, yeah, no, I knocked on the door, and at first they're like, oh no, we don't want any. Like, leave us alone. Leave us alone. And a wonderful, very bubbly, like great agent. And she said, oh, I was just going to give you some information about sales in the neighborhood, and flashing that she actually had stuff of value to share with them. All of a sudden they're like, what? Wait, what was that? Hold on. Sorry. What? You said you were going to share some stuff with me? And it helped tremendously with softening that conversation. So know that these are actual tactics. They're not sleazy. You are providing value to people in the neighborhood, And it's a great way to start a conversation. You may very well be knocking on multiple doors before you get an answer or before you get someone that's interested. But it takes one, right? Or it takes one person to say, well, we're good to stay. We just moved in 3 years ago. We're good. We got plenty of space to grow in here. Thank you. It's very helpful, Lisa. I'm glad you got that information. And yet they may say, but I do know that they were wanting to get back to Chicago to get closer to family. So I think they were kind of kicking around the idea of selling. You might right over across the street. Them right there. What was their names as the agent? John and Sue? Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, is it okay if I tell John and Sue that you told me? Okay, awesome. Thanks, Larry. Have a good day. Appreciate you. And oftentimes too in that conversation, your lead prospecting. Hey, Larry, I really enjoyed talking with you today. Would it be okay if I'm your trusted real estate resource in the future? I know you guys aren't ready to sell. You just moved in 3 years ago. Plenty of room to grow. But is it okay if I continue to drop off some information like this or send it your way? If you've had a good conversation with Larry, Larry may very well say, sure, yeah, that's fine. Okay, Larry, what was your email address? I'm happy to send this via email if you're comfortable with that. Okay, email and your phone number. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Larry. People literally that's how they capture contact information, and then they add it to their database, which we'll talk about in a minute. How do you increase the names in your database? Because you're going to naturally have people that you know already, but we need to add more names to that to get to our sales goals. Another true story on that is so you sold a house. So Northgate Village, it's in North Kansas City. They have lovely townhouses. There's 3 different styles, I believe, of those townhouses that kind of rotate through the community. Many years ago, way before the market was crazy hot, I sold one of them and I realized it was a hot commodity. People loved it. People were coming out of the woodworks trying to get into these townhouses. So I made a flyer with valuable information on it. And I went and knocked on the doors, and anyone that didn't answer, I left it taped to the door. Believe that year I sold 2 or 3 others, some in the MLS, some out of the MLS, in that same neighborhood by doing that. Because I was able to identify more people that wanted to move and then use that to find more people that wanted to buy them and connect them all. And it turned into 4 sales. And I think back then, guys, that things were going for $265. So it was $1 million in sales. So it's 100% possible. So when you're thinking about what is the activities I want to do, those are activities that produce results, and it's much more an immediate action, right? You can see those results quicker. Okay, there's also where you do community outreach, whether that be charity work or volunteer work, and that's a prospecting opportunity. Do I suggest that you get on a board or start going to board meetings and go around and just say, hi, my name is Elizabeth, I sell real estate. How are you? Do you want to buy a house, sell a house, or invest in real estate? Probably not that intensity, right? I would highly suggest showing up as a professional and looking to add value to that organization and being helpful, and being ready with that elevator speech. Oh, what is it that you do, Elizabeth? Oh, yep. Yeah, I sell real estate. I'm with Keller Williams on the Plaza, and I sell real estate in the area. I not only serve the Prairie Village area, but I also work on the Kansas side or the Missouri side and such. And market, oh, how is real estate? You're ready with all of those elevator speeches through. You look like a very very strong resource. Oh, okay. Awesome, great, right? And then that's where you're building that relationship. That person can go in your network too, within your database as well. But that's what we kind of need about community outreach and charity work. If you do get on boards, it is something that is a little bit longer term, but it is a way of marketing yourself to where in time you get results out of that. And that's coming to you because people are getting to know you and trust you and see you as a valuable resource. Key relationships. So this is an example of prospecting in which you might be reaching out to bankers that you know in your network, right? So if there's somebody that is a loan officer or works at a bank, networking with them and reaching out to them and say, hey, can I be your trusted resource and your agent that you call when someone comes in and is looking to consider refinancing their house, and yet they maybe mentioned that they were also thinking about buying and selling. Could I be your first phone call? More than happy to help give them an analysis, no strings attached kind of a thing, and do a really professional job. So that's what they mean there is reaching out to corporations. Can I be your reload specialist? Obviously, a lot of big companies are going to have reload companies they go through, and yet some of those smaller ones that are growing and don't, to say, if somebody's coming into town, can I be the person that shows them around? I'm more than happy to, when they come in for the interview, set up 2 hours to give them a little tour of the areas that they might be considering and get them set up on a search and take good care of them. There's also, other opportunities for prospecting is teaching and speaking opportunities in the community, doing door-to-door canvassing, so knocking on doors, networking events. And that is a place where I think you can very well be a little bit more aggressive in your conversation. But again, you're wearing your name tag, presenting yourself professionally, and you're ready with that elevator speech. Booths and kiosks. This is where we've got Holly and Leo are absolutely amazing about this in this office. They go to the different, if there is a like Liberty Days, right? Or having something like we're not the art fair, because that's obviously like big time, right? You have to take like a small loan to be at the Plaza Art Fair this weekend. But going and being at some of those local functions, whether it be, I know Prairie Village has events, Brookside has different, Waldo has like Waldo Fest was last weekend. But setting up a booth there, maybe working with a lender or an inspector to sponsor that they're gonna have a giveaway and collecting contact information there. So we did, with the form they fill out that says, have you bought a home in the last 3 years? Are you interested in buying a home in the next 3 years? Can I give you a market analysis? It truly works, guys, as a way to lead generate. And then also text corresponding. So that is something that prospecting. So texting, Facebook messaging, emailing out to your contacts on the regular, even if it's just, hey, I was thinking of you today. Just wanted to say hello, and starting a conversation and staying top of mind, and especially with those people that have those life-changing events that they may very well have a real estate need. Okay, does this make sense, the difference between marketing and prospecting? There is a bit of an overlap there. Farming is an overlap of prospecting and marketing. And that's where you might be consistently mailing out or sending out something that is marketing based. And then you're also calling the people in that neighborhood, or you're knocking on the doors of people in that area, right? So that's kind of the combination of lead generating, where it's an immediate proactive activity, and marketing, where you're consistently sending out stuff to them that is more passive. Same thing with events, as far as open houses, seminars. Again, if you're doing a first-time home buyer seminar, you're gonna be doing a lot of marketing to try to get people to come to that. Might also be doing some prospecting where you're saying, hey, I know you were considering buying a home. I'm doing a seminar on Saturday. It's gonna be at the beer station. Should be really, very casual, good time. If you wanna stop by, would you be interested? Can I save a seat for you? Can I send you a ticket? That could be a way that you're not only marketing to the masses, but also prospecting and doing some one-on-one. And then the event itself is where you're generating leads there. Contest. That's kind of another opportunity where you are kind of combining things. I don't know if you guys have seen this, and you have to be careful, and it is something to totally check with Randy on the rules, because Kansas and Missouri are a little bit different on how you can market for that. But where somebody will say, I'm gonna give away a $100 Target gift card. You will share, comment on this post, or some people take it to an extreme and they say, I'm gonna give away this huge package or this huge thing. And on Thursday, between 1 and 3, if you call in and share a name of a friend, a friend that we can add to our community that we're serving and supporting, then we'll put you in the drawing for it. There's the contest or another way to gather contact information and leads for people that may very well need help with their real estate. Client appreciation events are another lead generation activity. This one is one that seems a little odd. It's a kind of odd in a sense, but people are very grateful that you're doing something to say thank you to them. For example, if this weekend, Nate shared too at our ALC meeting this week, that they did their one of their big client appreciation events where they had photographers come out and take family photos of their clients. And their clients were able to schedule like a 15-minute window or a 5-minute window to kind of come and just take 4 or 5 poses. And he said that it was something that people were so incredibly grateful for the opportunity, that while they're waiting to get their photo taken, they're going, I have someone for you. You guys are so great. Thank you so much for this. I can't even tell you how long it's been since we've gotten a family photo, and thank you. I've got someone for you. and they've been needing to reach out to you, right? So it's an opportunity for you to show appreciation and for them to reciprocate and give you, and you literally would walk away from it with leads. Any questions there? Okay, I'm just doing a great job. I'm just nailing all of this. I love it. All right. Networking within your sphere. So past clients and your people in your network that you know. And that's to where you're going out and showing up at the birthday party for someone, or participating in maybe a event that they are throwing, and helping support them, and you're just going there to network and use that as an opportunity to do some marketing and some prospecting there. And then there are also opportunities to network with other agents. This might seem odd, but there are agents that build this out in their lead generation plans, where they're going to go network with other, or whether it be online or in person, but they're going to go network with other agents so that they can receive referrals from them. And they build out a piece of their business where they have referrals that they are consistently getting referrals from other agents. Even though they pay out a referral fee, they're still retaining 75% of that commission. And it's a lead that they didn't have to generate themselves. Finally, another version of it would be purchased leads, which might come from a referral network or an average advertising network. So I mean, purchase leads could very well be from Zillow, Realtor.com, or there's plenty of other places that are going to generate the lead for you and then sell it to you. And then you've got to either convert it and turn it into a sale, but you might either pay as you're receiving the lead $400, or if you convert the lead and it closed, you pay them a percentage for that lead. Does that make sense? All right. We're doing great. So now you guys are like super excited. How many of you guys have had where you're like, okay, I know how I'm going to generate business. I've got this great idea and I'm going to do da, 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 da. And then the next day you're like, I could also do this, 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 and this. And then I saw this one other agent was doing this. And that seems really cool and fun. And I like that idea. I want to do that. And right, like, can we like be honest? I know that we're like in the room here, we're still somewhat new in the business, right? So maybe it hasn't completely, shiny object syndrome hasn't completely taken over your world. But often as an agent, as you continue on in your career, it's really easy to go, ooh, I'm going to do this. And you start on doing this. Oh, and then I'm going to do this as well. And then I'm going to do, yes, I'm going to also pay to sponsor that basketball team. And I'm going to start doing open houses, and I also am going to join this board, and I'm going to mail a newsletter every single month, not only to my people, but I'm going to mail a newsletter to my neighborhood. And I'm also going to knock on doors around that listing that I had. So I'm going to knock on doors around that listing as well. And all of a sudden, as an agent, you're like, man, I'm killing myself here. Like I am like doing all kinds of lead generation. This is, I hope something sticks. I'm just throwing a lot of stuff at the wall and I just hope something sticks. Kid you not, if you ask an experienced agent, if they've ever said that phrase, many, I would say 9 out of 10 are going to say, oh yeah, I've said that before, right? I used to say, I'm throwing a lot of stuff at the wall and hoping something sticks, right? The problem with that is if you're not focusing your efforts and you're spread too thin across all of those different channels, then no results won't come from them. What your success and those results come from being consistent and the frequency in which you're doing each of those activities. So on your, and the reason we say this too is there's a rule of 4 in lead generation. And oftentimes an experienced agent that's been doing this will sit down and say, okay, tell me where your business came from last year. Tell me the activities you did last year and where your business came from. And they may very well lay out 10 different places that their business came from. And if you look at it and they were to quantify it, 82% of their business comes from four sources or less. And that agent might say, well, you know, like 80% of my business or 75% of my business were referrals or past clients. And then another, 5% or 6% was from open houses. And then another one was from a newsletter I send out to my neighborhood, kind of a thing, right? And then you have some like one-offs over here that kind of happen as well. But the idea is that you want to reduce down to just pick of all the ideas you have, and as a new agent, of all the ideas you have of what you want to do, list them out and then pick only 4 to focus on, 4 or less to focus on. So do you guys want to take just a second and do you guys want to brainstorm right now, or do you have ideas of like what lead generation you've thought about doing that you would be willing to share out loud?
I think one is social media, make like quick videos like first home buyer needs to pay attention to these key elements, or make a quick video of like if you have want to buy a house with no money down, here's your options, and maybe that will help get people to you. So that's my thought.
Also,
Okay.
on social media, following your friends' friends, so they see that you and that friend follow each other, so they're gonna be like, oh, we must like know each other, or they see that you have that in common, so they're more likely to follow you back and just see your content.
But I hear social media
Yeah.
is a place that you're gonna invest time for your lead generation and your marketing, yes? And that would all fall kind of in that social media category a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Okay, anybody, social media is a great one, guys, especially when you're getting started. Because the cost of it, unless you're sponsoring stuff, right, which I would just bring that in a little bit. But the cost of it is low, right? It's not like you're spending a lot of money to do it. It's a free activity to do, really. I mean, it's free in the money sense. Anyone that's doing it, Elisa knows because she does a lot of social media. It's free in the money side of things, and the time aspect of things, it takes a lot, right? So it's time intensive to do those things, but it is a great resource and way to do things. Any other ideas of how to market? So that social media is one really great one. And I think for a lot of us new in the business, that might be our tallest column over here, right? Is social media. It's staying top of mind, letting people know that we are serious in the business and this isn't just a hobby for us. Like I'm doing this, I'm a professional. I'm out working. A lot of the reason why that social media stuff is a great lead generation and marketing piece, and it's kind of a combination, it's really more of a marketing because you're putting it out there and you're hoping that it's giving someone the thought to call you when they have a need, right? And so that's it's a marketing activity really, right? But it's also making it to where people see, oh, Elizabeth really is, like, I know she got a real estate license, but I haven't heard, I haven't seen her in a while or whatnot, but if they're signing in and seeing you constantly touring homes, they're like, oh, no, like, she's out, like, she's like, wow, like, she's actually out in houses, like, doing the job, like, working, like, she is really active. Okay, so that's probably, that's a big one. What other activities? Because it's always helpful to have multiple other lead generation or marketing activities.
I think door knocking is helpful. Door knocking probably a big one. Because I think social media is, you said passive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then for, prospecting would be door knocking. So
Yeah.
I think that's been a good one too.
Yeah, no, proactive and an immediate response, right? Door knocking too. Jim Fassell sits back there in the corner when he's not making his numbers. I mean, he sold 101 transactions last year. There's a number of months where he's like, I need one more listing, I need 2 more listings. And then we're out knocking on doors looking for those listings, because that was one way to get that listing like now, in the next 6 days, kind of a thing. Right, so no, I think, and door knocking is a great, and that is a prospecting activity for some balance. You were saying something, Elizabeth?
So I do more of the prospecting side. I have 3 kids and they're busy. And so I have like a lot of different avenues of meeting people and knowing people. So this year I joined the executive board of the PTA, which, I mean, it's a great way to get out there. And I try and get together with 2 people a week, whether it's coffee or lunch, and just talk to them and build that relationship. And people that I haven't seen for a while, let them know what I'm doing. Most of it is just, hey, how's it going? How's your life? And then just at 5 minutes of the conversation, maybe, oh yeah, this is what I'm doing with my real estate. And they may say, oh yeah, we're thinking about selling, or, just stuff like that. Or we walk through the neighborhoods a lot and I just talk to neighbors with the kids, we're just all.
Yeah.
So it's kind of relational and more of an organic, I guess.
That's good.
Yeah. But no, I mean, that is prospecting, right? Especially if it's a systemized thing where you're saying, okay, my goal is each month to make sure that I have 4 coffees with someone.
Mhm.
And in those 4 coffees, I'm learning about them, and you're taking notes, and you're taking those notes back and you're putting them in your in command in your CRM and saying, okay, they're going on vacation here, they're doing this home improvement project. Like all of that is so that the next time you go to coffee again or say, hey, you run into them again at an event or something for the kids. How did the kitchen remodel go? Like I hadn't, you know, or you're commenting on their pictures on their social media, that kitchen remodel kind of a thing. But in those conversations, and again, it's being ready with the elevator speech. Well, this is, I'm selling real estate right now. We had a great property that we were able to get under contract because, you know, the market's kind of slowed a little as far as buyers go. So, you know, I know that we got one in our office, and you can say those things as a new agent. I know we got one in our office under contract for 10,000 under ask, and they're putting a new roof on. And if you need those stories, guys, they exist. I would just network and socialize here a bit, and you're gonna get those stories out of the folks here. But that's a great, I mean, or writing personal notes, guys, is a lead generation activity, is a relationship building activity, and that can be one of the ways that you're lead generating, is to stay top of mind. And so maybe a goal of sending out 5 notes a week and having 4 copies a month, that you're being very purposeful, that you're, you know, that you're bringing up real estate when you're there, and you're showing up in a you know, professional, in a way that is, this isn't my hobby, this is the business I run.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. Okay, any other ideas for how you guys have thought about as you're getting into real estate? Because I know it's exciting getting into real estate to say, okay, how am I going to market myself? How am I going to get leads, to get business?
This may not be like exactly for the beginning, but you can partner up with like a small business. And when you have a conversation, you can tell them that you're gonna buy their products for their clients. And like in exchange of having like business cards on their site, or you know, so they partner up with you, and all of the people that go by on that place, they can like tell them, oh, we work with this one person.
Yeah. No, it's a real thing too, though, to be someone that is the go-to and investing in partnering with vendors. Very much so. Sometimes people are strategic where they're gonna go partner up with a roofer. Because sometimes that roofer gets a phone call of, hey, we know we need to sell our house, and we know that when we bought the house, the roof is kind of old. We lived here 11 years. Can you give us an idea of what the roof's gonna be to replace it? And they're just doing their due diligence before they make a phone call to an agent to actually sell, to say, we gotta put a new roof on this place, honey, like it may not be this year that we get to sell this house. You know, but if they get the news that, okay, actually you've got hail damage, and let's do a claim through insurance with that roofer. If you've partnered with that roofer and you've really poured into building those relationships, not with just one, but like many different vendors, that roofer's gonna say, oh my goodness, Adam, you need to call Elizabeth. Like, if you guys are thinking about selling, I mean, I'll give you the info on the roof, but you need to call Elizabeth. Like, she can come tell you how much the house is worth. She knows all kinds of stuff too. We were talking the other day, and she said that people aren't even have to put new roofs on stuff, even if they're old roofs, because the market's moving so fast. And you live in a really desirable area, so you may not even have to deal with this roof piece, but then they're handing you a lead and setting you up.
Yeah, I have a family friend that owns a roofing business, and I gave him like 20 business cards when I first started out, and he went through them like that, and he was like, I need more, like I need like 100. And my brother-in-law, he's a car salesman, he did the same thing. I gave him a few, and he was like, dude, I'm giving those out left and right. I need more of those. Because people come in buying a car, but then they start talking about how they need to buy or sell their house.
Yeah, well, like, I don't know if this one's gonna fit in the garage, honey, like, I'm really, yeah, well, I know we're thinking about moving, like, I don't know if like this big huge truck's gonna fit in the new house. Like, and having that relationship where someone says, hey, if you guys are, like, this is the person you need to talk to, like, they're an advocate, and then it goes both ways, right? That you're sending business back to them, as well. But yeah, think it through those different trades and those different people that might, but yes, a car salesman, which you wouldn't necessarily think, and yet there's someone that has a lot of people that come through.
Oh, yeah.
And they are frequency of people, and a lot of times people talk about car salesmen too, the relationships they build with their clients over the years as well. And you often buy a new car probably every 3 to 4 years, and you might be in a house longer. But they've got good relationships where people very much so trust them. So with your any kind of communication that you're doing with parties that you do on the regular, whether it be your database, or else you wanna make sure you think about frequency. So a lot of times in your lead generation, people will say, well, I mailed something out and nothing came of it. And I'm mailing something quarterly, or I'm mailing something twice a year. But if there's 6 months time between those two mailings, it's not as effective if you can be consistent and mail it out once a month or once every 2 months.
Like one of my dad's friends, we used to get postcards from her every single month and they would have different recipes on them. She'd send out recipe postcards. She was an agent, but she was just like sending out different recipe postcards. So every time you thought of her, you might like make something that she sent you for dinner like 3 or 4 months down the road, but like you have all of these recipe cards that you save in your kitchen that have her information on it.
Yep, and seeing that, like staying top of mind, so much of marketing is staying top of mind, right? To where like, when the moment strikes that their coworker at work is saying that they're getting ready to sell, if they saw something from you last week, oh, yeah, Zach sells houses, and like, I think personality-wise, you guys would get along really well. I'll take a picture of the postcard that he sent, that with the, it's got a recipe on the back, but I'll send you a postcard, or if you want, I'll just bring it in and I'll give you his contact info, right? But you're staying top of mind with them, so that when someone does mention real estate, they think of you, and they know that you're still very active in the business. But so those are key things to think about. Frequency is something very much so to think about, with that more frequently you're touching a group, the greater results you're gonna get lead-wise out of that group. Right, so if it's, I'm on a board and I go to a board meeting once a month, or I'm on a board and I'm also a part of different committees underneath that board, and I'm active, or I make sure I attend every single month, this function, instead of I attend it 1 month and then don't for 2 months, and then I attend it for 1 month and then don't for 3 months because I get busy. Like, be very thoughtful on the frequency in which you're communicating and how that is affecting the number of results you're getting out of that group. With your social media, posting something 3 times a week or something of that frequency is gonna make a difference with the results you get. Consistency is also something to speak with, consistency in the timing of those things, but also consistency in your message, right? Sometimes it's very helpful, and we've had where agents say, if I can come up with a client profile in my head, and I can say, today my marketing is speaking, and sometimes they have multiple client profiles, right? So you might have a client profile of a growing family, that needs to, and so you're developing marketing that's speaking to that client profile, and you're consistent in that messaging, right? But having those client profiles that you're consistent and you're not constantly jumping all over the place with your messages, because then that's confusing to the consumer. Does Elisa work with investors, or does she work with first-time home buyers, or is she working with retirees that are, you're moving out of state? Like, what's going on here? Like, what is the message? And then gaining permission is another piece when you're communicating with your database and people in your network, to ask permission to have a two-way conversation with them. So if it's a stranger, like when we're knocking on the door, and Larry, it's been a great conversation. I really enjoyed talking to you, and thanks for letting me know about the neighbors across the street. I am gonna go talk with them. But can I be your trusted real estate advisor? Is that okay? Asking permission to be in a two-way conversation with them. And then we talked a lot about this already, but pairing value. So making sure that what you're bringing is of value to them. Guys, I and many times, and I know many of my peers, the amount of time, and not that it takes so much time that you never get out the door and actually do the activity or actually send the information, but taking the time to put together a flyer that has valuable information. It doesn't have to be super detailed or have a ton of stuff on it, but taking that time before you go knock on the door is valuable. Or taking the time to develop a flyer that speaks to who the groups are that make up your network for the most part is going to get you a greater amount of response out of that group when you send it out, when you spend the money to put a stamp on it and send it out to that group. One of the things I really encourage you, and I've done this activity with some of our larger producing agents, is to take time and think about the groups you want to market to, so that we really can kind of bring that in, as much as we're also going to bring in our rule of 4 when it comes to who we're marketing to. I want you also to think about what groups it is that you're speaking to when you're marketing, or that you're spending and taking efforts to do. So that would be what the bottom of this worksheet is here for you too, if you guys. And then how are you going to market to those individuals? It might be another way to kind of break up what is the lead generation that you're gonna do for each of those groups. Some people, it might be that I'm gonna do a pop by with pumpkins and carving kits, right? Because for all my people that have children. Some of it might be, I'm gonna pop by with, you know, a kooky cocktail kit for, as my pop by for that group, right? Some of it would be where it's, I'm going to do a update on, market values, because I know they're an engineer and they really like to see graphs and those spreadsheets and those numbers, piece. So that's the purpose of the bottom of that for you. I want to go through a little bit about the database model. So our lead generation activities, guys, and what we're doing to generate those leads and get that name, phone number, email address, that contact info. Those activities are where we're capturing that and we're putting it in our database. We're lead capturing, putting that information in our database from our prospecting and our marketing. And then from there, those leads stay in your database and you're just managing that relationship. We often talk about, there's sometimes those leads are gonna stay in that because they aren't ready to move. Larry and his wife, they told you, they moved in 3 years ago and they're good, they're set for a while. But no, then you're continuing to build that relationship with that lead to where then they become a contact and they become someone that you've got permission to be in a two-way conversation with relationship with them. And then over time, you're either going to be getting referrals from them or they're going to eventually become a client. Larry had a change in life and says, you know what, my daughter's having twins and I really want to get closer to her in Wichita, Kansas. So we are gonna sell. I was wrong. We are gonna sell and we are gonna move, so I'm glad, like, I wanted to reach out to you because it's been helpful, the information you've said, and you've been a very big, professional through the last 9 months, kind of a thing. And they become a actual transaction for you. At that point, once you've closed and they become a client for you and you go through the transaction with them, they then become where they're going to become a past client in our referral resource because they've had a great experience with you. So they turn into a referral resource for you, a stronger referral resource for you, because they could send you a referral before that too. And then they also go back up and start back at the top, where then you're putting them back in the top of the funnel and you're building that relationship again for the next time that they have a need. And guys, I've had where I've sold 3 houses to people in 4 years' time. And so just because they just bought a house doesn't mean that you don't still continue to work on that relationship. For the referral piece, because if they had a really good experience, they're gonna be tooting your horn and everyone's gonna be asking like, how did you guys just bought and moved? How did that go? Kind of a thing. All right, this is talking about how to communicate with your database. So we're lead generating to get all of those leads to put in the database. And then what do we do with them so what we were talking about earlier is how do we get the leads? And then we're talking about what do we do with them once we get them in our database. So one way is to saturate and there's 2 different 19 to connect or 36 to connect. And that's where you could break it down into the number of touches you have. So 4 touches, a quarterly phone call. So you make sure that you're calling every single person in your database once a quarter. There's ways to set that up, guys, where you can do it by the first and letter of their last name, and you call 2 of those a month. And you're gonna work your way through the alphabet that way and cover everybody. And then there's also tagging them, where you're just calling certain groups of those each month, where it's like, I'm gonna call the school friends. I'm gonna call all of the people that I met at open houses and circling through them that way. The other is a 12 touches through monthly emails or newsletters or market reports that you're sending out to them. So making sure each data person in your database gets something from you once a month. And then 2 touches, which would be a promotional direct mail, whether it be a magnet with the football schedule on it, or a printed market report on their house, or sometimes that pop-by, right, where we're dropping off the pumpkin to give to them and being a touch there, a personal touch. And then finally, 1 touch, which is like a annual event. And that might be where your pie giveaway. Pies are coming, guys. And it sounds so silly. And I used to think it was so silly. People drive from all over town to come get their $9 Costco pie from you. They do. They love it. I don't know why. But there's a lot of opportunities coming here in the winter months to have a event in which, and it can start as small as, hey, I wanted to give you a pie, would you be interested in stopping by? I'm gonna have, you know, some hot cocoa out as well for the kiddos and such, but like, you wanna stop by, what kind of pie would you like? Pumpkin, apple, or pecan? Pecan's a little more expensive, so just put that in there. Another option is to do one high value touch to cement the relationship. And that is a way to, in which maybe it is, I'm taking them out to dinner and making it to where it's a really like high touch, high value touch, or you're going to, that's a little bit further down the road and maybe not where you guys are. Sometimes people will buy them the latest gadget, like big mega agents have people in their database that are like big referrers for them. And they'll buy them the new latest technology gadget, and that cements the relationship to where they don't have to touch them 16 times throughout the year. They might still, but that's one
We'll
thing.
send them like an Apple Watch or something like that. just-
Seriously, and like people know that they only get the Apple Watch, the latest technology thing,
Uh-huh.
if they've been sending you business and are
Right.
helping support your business.
One idea that I had heard was to, like, to do, for people that do referrals, to say, for 4 months, I'll give you a $25, I'll re-up $25 on your Starbucks card at the first of every month for each referral that you give. And so you're,
So that might be where Randy, like, just so you know, Randy, I am saying, that might be a conversation with Randy too, because it can't, like, there is like a thin line that you walk between like a direct, people will send a $5 Starbucks card
yeah,
as a thank you,
yeah,
but it might be
They can't
something,
be quite that transactional.
yeah,
it might be careful of how you walk through that, right? If like magically every, you know, if they've sent a couple and like, okay, hey, I thank you again, if you've been so kind to me this past quarter, again, thank you. Just wanted, like, I put $25 on that card, so, like Starbucks card for you too, I added another 25. But making it to where it's not, you send me this, I give you this kind of a thing, if
Right.
that makes sense.
right,
And again, Randy would be the person to talk to, not me on exactly, because there are ways to get creative and do all of that, guys, like there really is. And the states are different, and I will put that in Randy's court. And he'll be so grateful I said that, because he gets often very mad at me where he's like, Elizabeth, with these loopholes and such, like, you don't need to be talking to people about loopholes and, yeah. Also, no, I'm just find me out. No.
yeah,
Okay, the same kind of thing, if you wanted to take it up a notch, and again, we talked about frequency, right? And how much you're gonna get out of a data that is dependent on consistency and frequency too. So if you wanted to go from 19 to connect to 36 to connect, that would be 4 telephone calls, 26 bi-weekly email offerings of some kind of information, 2 touches or events, get-togethers each year, and then 4 promotional touches. So it's where you're doing pop buys or a magnet in the mail 4 times a year instead of 2. So sitting down and kind of thinking about how is it that you want to communicate and drawing that plan up now so that you can schedule it out so that throughout the year. Rose does a great job with this. Austin Home Team does a great job with this, that they're very consistent in those communications with their clients. And it makes a big difference. Okay, this is talking about do not call people on the do not call list. Mark King, who is the president of KW, will be grateful that I said, do not call people on the do not call list. It's not the $500 fine that you want to be worried about if you get turned in. It's that they will, like, there are people out there waiting for you to call them so they can like sue you and get like lots more than $500. So he will be so proud that I went over that. All right, I want to do your worksheet. We made it a little bit prettier, but I wanted to walk through an activity when it comes to your database. So on that 3rd page of the handout, we've got in here the number of contacts in your database today. So how many of you guys have your database set up and have those names already collected? Awesome. No,
some,
it's okay.
yeah,
Okay, so if you were to sit down and collect all of the people that are in your world right now, that you know, and you have either a phone number or an email or their street address for, one of the 3, how many people would you say that would be? That you could load into your database tomorrow if you wanted?
I'm starting. Don't look at me.
I mean,
a lot.
okay, so are you thinking 100 a lot, or 60 a lot, or 200 a lot?
Couple hundred.
Okay, So like, are 200, does that feel okay? Okay. How about anybody else? Anyone else?
I started doing like a detailed list yesterday. It's like my homework.
Yeah.
Cause I had one, but it was just the people that I know. So I'm doing the people that I know plus their family, and the people that they know.
Yeah,
And I just like sat there for like just a couple minutes and I got to 100. And I'm like, okay, so tomorrow, those 100 people, I try to get 100 contacts from them. And
to add.
that's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so I think that's a great
Yeah.
idea. Did Keisha point you in that direction?
Yeah, it was from the beginning class. It's like a homework.
Yes, yeah, great, great. No, and that is exactly what I would say. If you haven't started the process yet, it starts simply with sitting down or logging into Google Sheets and then just starting to add, type out the names of everybody you know that come to mind first of all, right? Just come to mind. Then I often encourage people, as cheesy as it sounds, to get on your cell phone and scroll through the names on your cell phone and add those names, right? Sometimes that activity is easiest if you brainstorm all the names and then go back and add the contact info instead of like adding a name, okay, now phone number, email address. It's easier to have all the juices flowing on just trying to brainstorm the names. So going to your phone, going to your social media accounts and looking at who are on those social media accounts. And often it's like Elisa's saying, then you're starting to think about, well, not only do I know her, but I know her mom and dad. And I think that they, would respond and would recognize my name and recognize me, and adding that. So that is like probably would be the first activity, right? That we would want to be sure to, you're with Chris is what you're talking about for that. So if are you guys comfortable committing to sitting down and creating that list in the next 7 days? Or do you need 7 days to do it?
I'll start.
Okay, do you think you could get to 100 names in 7 days?
For sure I can get to like, hopefully 150. I'll go back to like the place I work. And I still built a good relationship with them even though I left. So that's where I get a lot of people,
Okay,
a lot of trust.
okay, so 150, it sounds like 200, we felt comfortable. If you're at like 100 already, what are your thoughts? Do you think you
Yeah,
could get to?
I'm gonna add more.
Okay, you think 150, 200, what would you commit to?
300.
300? Okay. Zach, where do you think you're at?
I could probably get to like 75 to 100.
Can we say 100? I'll push you.
Yeah.
I think
Push
you
me
can
to
do
the
100.
triple digits.
100. Okay, everybody, we can put that number on the top, like at the top there, in that first blank. And then if you want to get out your cell phone or your calculator, you take that number times 0.06. And then write it in the next blank. Okay, so what you just wrote, the way the models and the research and the things that Keller Williams have tracked for years and years is 6% of your database are going to buy a home or sell a home in the next 12 months. So if you have a database of 100 people, 6 different transactions are sitting in that database. It's your responsibility to stay top of mind and be a phone call that they make when it is time, or for you to be proactively calling them, right? That's where we're prospecting that database and we're proactively calling them, so you are one of the people that they talk to when the time, those 6 people talk to when the time comes. So that is how you kind of work backwards into it. The next conversion is if you take it times 0.5, that would be if you have a 50% conversion rate of those appointments to them hiring you to be their agent. Now, the harder and the more work that you're putting into staying in contact with them, marketing that you are a professional, that you are in this business, the higher that conversion rate is. And it's not always 50%. But it also, there'll be times where if you're not staying in contact with somebody, one of those 6 people in your database, if you have 100 in your database, happened to me all the time when I was selling. And I log into Facebook, had a long day, and I'm like, people just closed on a new house, like my friend, that I've been thinking about calling her and I hadn't called her and hadn't, checked in with her in a while, and they just bought a house with another agent. Not because they don't like me, the other agent was just being more proactive or doing a better job of staying top of mind. And that's what it means too, that 50% conversion rate sometimes is not that you went and met with them and they didn't hire you. It's that you didn't get the opportunity to talk to them because you weren't staying on top of being proactive, reaching out to them and marketing to them and staying top of mind. Okay, so the next piece is, those are the actual people in your database themselves that are going to buy a home or sell a home or invest in real estate. The next, if you take again and put that number from the top, first blank on the top row into the first blank in that orange section. And then we're gonna multiply that by 0.04. That is going to be the number of referrals you would expect to get out of the database of that size. So if we're again going off of the 100 people in a database, it's gonna be 4 referrals a year sitting there in that database. That someone is not themselves going to buy, but they're gonna refer you to someone else. And again, if you convert it 50% of the time, or if you capture it 50% of the time, that would mean 100 person database, you would expect 2 referrals a year out of. A 300 person database, you would expect to be able to get capture 6 of those. If you're top of your game, you might be able to capture 12. But, okay, does that make sense, guys, on how important that database number is? The next and final section there in the bottom gray box will be what your total appointment goal is for the year. So if you want to, and this is again where we use the economic model, but if in order to meet your goals, you need to have 20 appointments, buyer or seller appointments in 12 months time, you would put 20 there. And then we're gonna multiply that by 1%. Or I'm sorry, by 0.1. And that's gonna tell you how many contacts you need in your database. Does that make sense? No, I think we're doing this wrong. My apologies. That's what I'm checking. Okay. If you divide, so like, let's change that times to a divide. So we're gonna take the number on the far left and we're gonna divide it by 0.01. Because we're gonna have 6% of that will be database people and then 4% being referral based. So that would be a total of 10%. So if we take 200, for example, we want to have 20 leads, 20 appointments divided by 0.1, we would need 200 in our database. And then if we divide that by, so cross out the times and divide that by 0.5, sorry, we'd have to have 200 appointments. I'm sorry, 200 in the database, and we only convert 50% of them, then we would need 400. Does that make sense, guys? To get those 20 appointments. Clear as mud?
Oh,
Is it clear as mud?
Well, that, yeah.
Okay. So can we commit that we're gonna add to our data, you can get to 100, 150, you said? 300, 200, 100.
Yes.
Okay, no pressure, Zach, but you know,
You guys can get to work.
little friendly competition.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we can do that, then how many more, can you guys do the calculation to figure out how many more you'll need to be able to hit the transactional goals that you have, or the appointment goals that you have for the year? Is it okay if I, myself, or Danny, or Kendall reach out and ask you next Thursday how it's going? And ask you how many you have in your database? And or how many more you need by you running this calculation yourself?
yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Exciting. Okay, is this helpful?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm also excited to hear, I'm also super excited to hear what you come up with, like, for what lead generation activities you wanna focus in on. And really try to get it down. I honestly think getting started, I would probably try to get it down to 2 or 3. That you're gonna really just own and focus in on.
Can I tell you mine real
Yeah.
quick? Just get some advice. So I want to attack veterans or people in the military through Fort Leavenworth, because I am military. I want to go talk to housing and see if I can get like a class going on, so I can teach them how to about the area, because people come and go on military base all the time. So I think that's fast paced, and I think that will help.
Now, when they're on that, so are you comfortable with some feedback? Are they,
Yeah.
they're on the military base, are they in military housing or are they buying and selling homes?
I want to talk to them about military housing and not stay on post, because I think that's a horrible idea, because they get base housing allowance and just throwing all that money away. They invest that money into a mortgage so they could build some wealth. So that's what I want to talk to them about.
What if you talk to them about having a strategy of going and purchasing, because they're not gonna be there forever, and they know that, they
Yeah.
might likely move elsewhere. But purchasing something in the area, residing in it while they're there, but making sure they're strategic about what they purchase so that they can turn it into a rental upon when they leave.
Yep.
Another piece of that too, when you're coming with value, is maybe that's your first appointment, is to say, hey, have you thought about this? Or maybe that's a part of like a seminar or something that you're communicating to them, and we're thinking about how we're frequently communicating, consistently communicating stuff.
Mhm.
You're asking for their permission to communicate with them, right? Name, phone number, email address. And another time is to follow up with, and here's a property management company that can manage it for you when you move on, so we can take that fear away. And then they go to another base somewhere else, and you're teaching them there that they can do some, do something similar there, and then they've got investment properties. And such, because they have income that they can qualify for a loan off of it,
Mhm.
correct? I think some of them just don't think of it, and then there are some objections. I also think it would be good prior to, as you're developing that material. And any of the segments that you're thinking about, is to sit down and think about what are the objections, or what are the things that they may come back at as a hesitation or a reason why they wouldn't move forward with something. So that you're prepared to either respond in person to those, or those are the things you're using to develop more marketing material for them. And that's another flyer that you're developing, or that's another resource that you're bringing in to help provide them, whether it be a lender that can talk to them about, different loan products that they can use. And options where they don't have to buy, even if they could afford a $300,000 house, maybe they're buying a $200,000 house, kind of a thing.
Mhm.
No, I think that's a great idea. Cool. But yeah, so 3 or less is what I would encourage you as a new agent, just so that you can really focus your energy. All right, guys, appreciate you. Happy Thursday. I know for some of us that means like